right, JRdukes at your service. Welcome. Come on in. I just hit the go button. We're going to give it just a second, make sure you guys can hear me. And if there's any problems whatsoever, please put it in the comments so I can address it right away. If you're new to the channel, welcome. As I said, I'm JRdukes, your host. We're going to be talking tonight about this amazing victory for former President Donald Trump. I should say President-elect Donald Trump, the 46th and now soon to be the 45th, soon to be the 47th president of the United States. What a fantastic victory for our country, for former President Donald Trump. Okay, a few housekeeping items here. We're glad everybody's here. If you'd like, please come on in, introduce yourself, let us know who you are and where you are from. It always makes for an interesting discussion. Additionally, if you'd like to contribute to the conversation on video, you can just call in, so to speak, by hitting that link I just put in the chat, or you can appear on your phone just with your webcam, not a problem, or your phone cam, not a problem whatsoever. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. Make sure we got everything connected. Hello to everyone on the X platform, and we have a couple folks already on YouTube, and we normally have a friend or two that shows up on Twitch here in just a second. So we're going to go ahead and get started because I do have an abbreviated time with you tonight, but I think it's well worthwhile. I have something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. It's a channel that's actually, it's a good channel. It's definitely a left-wing channel, but you know, on my program, I always talk about having that free mind and being able to think for yourself, make your own choices, make your own decisions. And I think it's interesting to see how other people are essentially freaking out over this election. Remember, they have promised us that this is all but the end of our society and the end of existence as we know it with the re-election of former President Donald Trump. But that's you know, we'll see how that all turns out. Okay, Zach, welcome to the show. I like to surprise everyone. You know, hello. I'm going to try, just so you know, I think what I'd like to do is have a more rigid time that I appear so everybody can anticipate that. Until then, the best thing to do is to simply hit the subscribe button. Obviously, for the channel, it helps the algorithm. Hit the thumbs up button. But obviously, when you subscribe, you should get alerts as soon as I go live. I would like to eventually go ahead and, you know, just have, I think from what they recommend, the so-called experts, it's best to have a regular time that you appear. But again, we'll see how that works out because sometimes my schedule is kind of messy. But you can follow me on the X platform. It's at Reach JRdukes. And of course, right here on YouTube is simply at JRdukes. And then, of course, if you don't know where in the world I'm at, you can also always go to your computer and simply type in JRdukes.com. And wherever I'm at, I should pop up. Don't hesitate to reach out to me via text. My text number is scrolling across the bottom right there. I definitely like to hear from everyone. And I have folks all the time that pop a question over or send me an article or something of interest. Obviously, I love to hear from everyone because that's what I do this for. I really admire this platform that we have on X, that we have via YouTube, where we can chat, exchange ideas, whatever. So it's definitely a pleasure. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. You know, we've been talking about, and I'm sure y'all have had this experience before, where you hear all these, I don't know what you call it, fortune tellers, prognosticators, telling us exactly how everything's going to turn out. And supposedly in the past, they've been the best experts in the world on everything and anything. And, you know, this time here with this election, I made sure to keep strict account of exactly who was effectively forecasting the winner and what their claims to fame were. And I like to expose the hypocrisy, the lies, the BS, if you will. And I think that looking at some of these predictions kind of helps us all in that regard. I remember when I was a kid, I remember back in the 80s, they kept talking about Nostradamus and his predictions, and that this guy is real smart, and that he was able to predict Hitler. And I'm not talking the Donald Trump Hitler. I'm talking about the real Hitler. It's just all kinds of nonsense. And of course, even now today, you still hear people talking about the predictions of Nostradamus. But I haven't seen anything that's come true. But at any rate, let's get right into it. Let's take a look at this first video. We're not going to watch the whole thing, just a couple pieces of it, because it's got some interesting forecasts, and you get to see that Leachman, or whatever his name is that we talked about yesterday. You get to hear his current response as to what has happened, and you get to see him on his own YouTube channel. I think he was broadcasting on that 538 channel election night, and then right around 10:30 he says, oh, something's wrong. He has a fancy speak for basically saying my prediction is wrong. So let's take a look at this and we'll talk.
After an all-consuming election cycle, we finally know who will be the 47th president of the United States. From polling models to expert predictions, the race between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump was considered a toss-up right to the end. But as votes began to be counted, some well-renowned pollsters took a U-turn on their predictions. Nate Silver is one of the most well-known names in election forecasting. He had a lot riding on his 538 polling model, which showed Harris with the advantage through most of the election night.
By the way, if y'all haven't figured this out yet, all of these pollers, with the slight exception of Rasmussen, he was as close as anybody was able to get to these polls. I don't know of anybody that predicted this huge red wave, this tsunami, if you will. Let's be honest about it. These pollsters don't know what they're doing. I talked about that on election night. I was very clear about it. Matter of fact, I got the clip here. I don't like to brag, but every once in a while I will. I called it 312 electoral votes, but even I did not predict the type of red wave that we're seeing right now. I knew that the polling was wrong for Donald Trump. We talked about that, and the polls were wrong in 2016. The polls were wrong in 2020 when Donald Trump supposedly lost or whatnot. And of course, I had no reason to believe that they fixed it in that time frame. And of course, we know the reality.
10:30 p.m., he abandoned his poll. Silver posted on Substack his model was not capturing the story of the election.
Yeah, this guy was
However, in the final
genius.
days leading up to the election, Silver said the polls showed Harris with the momentum, but his gut told him Trump would likely win. He did predict there would be a...
I'm going to mute that while it continues to play because I want to get to the other guy. He's my favorite, but we kept hearing a bunch about Nick Silver, and he was just wrong.
Of the 7 swing states that have been called, and leads in the other 3 swing states where votes are still being counted. Alan Lichtman is often referred to as the Nostradamus of presidential elections.
Did you guys hear that? The Nostradamus of presidential election. I would not want that label, as I just said. I have not seen in my lifetime Nostradamus correct.
Successfully predicting the last 9 of 10 presidents. Unlike other models, Lichtman makes predictions off of historical trends and doesn't deal in percentages. He predicted a win for Harris. Lichtman said that was based on what he described as a strong economy and the absence of a strong third-party candidate that he said would factor in the Democrats' favor.
That's why my prediction system, with a 40-plus year track record, predicts that Kamala Harris will be a new path-breaking president, the first woman president.
Yeah, just so we're clear, if you don't remember, he was very clear and very adamant about that Kamala Harris would be the next president of the United States. He kept touting, he's been around 30, 40 years. He's never been wrong except for the year 2000. And then he would go on to argue that technically he was right because Al Gore should have been the president, but yet the Supreme Court gave it to George W. Bush. But at any rate, I'm now exposing him for his hypocrisy. He does not know what he's talking about. And the keys that he refers to, these are very subjective at best. I kind of like the keys, to be honest with you, but I don't like the way he interprets the keys. He clearly, and I think this video illustrates this too, he clearly has a bias. We all have biases, right? But clearly he leans to the left. At least leaning is a kind word concerning my feelings about it. And of course, he has a bias against Donald Trump because, in his words, he's had supporters of Donald Trump allegedly make threats against him. But at any rate, I don't want to get off.
And the first president of mixed African and Asian descent.
But on election night, during a live stream of results, Lichtman's tune changed, casting doubt on his own prediction.
Trump is winning 51% of the Hispanic vote in Pennsylvania.
What?
That's what CNN is showing right now.
Was that possible? The world is turned upside down. That's all I can say. Is that better?
I love that. Did you hear? I don't know if y'all could hear that or not. The world has turned upside down. His initial reaction when the other guy said President Trump has received approximately 55% of the Latino vote in the state of Pennsylvania, his comment, what? And he's just, what do you call it? Gotcha. You're exposed.
Up to the eve of the election, there was one pollster creating all the buzz. And
and this one here is probably a better example of clear media bias, how the media is in the tank for the Democrats. They're nothing but a bunch of liberal, I don't know what you want to call it. You use your own adjective. They are just a mouthpiece for the left, and we have known that for a long time. And this clearly illustrates this. This is the pollster that was highly praised this past weekend. Remember, from the Iowa Register, Des Moines Register, whatever it's called, and she came out with a poll showing Kamala Harris way ahead of Donald Trump in the state of Iowa. Are you kidding me? That'd be like the poll calling and saying, hey, this last weekend in California, we showed Donald Trump winning by 10 points or 15 points. I mean, it just defied credulity, to be perfectly honest about it. But let's listen to it for a second.
Sir, who boldly predicted deep red Iowa would go to Kamala Harris, saying Harris would beat Trump by 3 points. On election night, Trump carried the state with about a 13% margin. That poll, the former president mocked on the campaign trail.
The polls are just as corrupt as some of the writers back there. They can make those polls sing. They can make them sing. They brag about it. I got a poll, I'm 10 points up in Iowa. One of my enemies just puts out a poll, I'm 3 down. A fake poll. Hey, think of it. Right before the election.
Yeah, we clearly know what's going on here. As a matter of fact, this other video that I have that I want us to take a quick peek at, it clearly shows the same pollster in a different light. And MSNBC, they were just having, I guess you'd call it a party pertaining to this poll. And of course, my opinion is the narrative here was simply to try to discourage any Trump supporter or anybody that was looking to show up at the polls and effectively vote for Donald Trump. They basically wanted to tell you, hey, there's no reason to show up because Donald Trump is losing and he's going to lose, so why bother? I mean, it's just my opinion. If you agree or disagree, let me know.
We are still in a news
Listen
environment in which there are good polls. And particularly where in some states there is a gold standard pollster who appears to be unaffected by larger dynamics that are making everybody whine about the polls. And the reason those individual pollsters get the gold standard designation is both because of their proven sound methodology, but also because of their track record over time in that particular jurisdiction. And the prototypical example of a gold standard poll is the Iowa poll done by Ann Selzer, by J. Ann Selzer in Iowa. The polls that she produces for the Des Moines Register in Iowa, specifically the final Iowa polls she does before each major election, her polls are known for their uncanny predictive accuracy. This is Ann Selzer's recent track record. I mean, what you see here is in each election year, what her final.
So I'm going to let this play as we talk about this, but basically the message is this woman's the gold standard. Donald Trump is going to lose. If he cannot win the state of Iowa, hey, this election's in the bag. And if you're a Republican, you're going to show up vote for Donald Trump. Don't bother showing up because look, I got a long record right here. Here's the record. She's the gold standard. She's this, she's that. We've now laid it out.
Basically as a living bullseye. And that's why lots of people
a living bullseye
had strong reactions when the Des Moines Register Ann Selzer Iowa poll.
Boy, she's just smiling from cheek to cheek, ain't she? Ear to ear.
Poll, and it is a shock result. It shows Kamala Harris ahead of Donald Trump by 3 points in Iowa. And the reason this is consequential to our psyche is that if this is accurate, and if anybody is accurate, it's likely to be Ann Selzer in the Iowa poll. If this is accurate,
oh, yeah. If anybody's accurate, it's likely to be Ann Selzer.
This implies that Harris might be winning Iowa. 3 points, granted, is within the margin of error here, but it's 3 points.
Yeah, it's in the margin of error. It's like in the realm of Fantasyland. it was fake. It was fake when they put it out. They knew in all likelihood that it was fake and that it was unreliable. And I'm just glad that none of us bought into this nonsense, because it's just unfortunate that the news is not the news. I can, you know, what is it? They should have the responsibility, take their responsibility serious and tell us the truth as to what's going on. But that's just simply not the case anymore. These people live in a some type of fantasy land. It just, I guess the only way I can describe it to you, or the way I look at them, is nothing more than a mouthpiece for the left, for this left-wing radical agenda. And, you know, folks, when you get right down to it, the lessons of this particular election are pretty simple. When you have the president of the United States, Joe Biden, effectively calling us all garbage, and essentially having plumbers, electrician, HVAC individuals paying off the student loans of attorneys and doctors and things along this line, it makes people mad. People are not happy paying $4 for gas, $5 for gas, depending on wherever you're living in the country. They're not happy about the cost of energy. My power bill here for my house alone is between $800 and $900 during the summer. Now, admittedly, I live in Florida and I like to stay cool, but that's the reality. The power consumption is driving up inflation all across this country. Remember, on day one, it was the Biden-Harris administration that stopped the Keystone Pipeline. They effectively stopped any more leases for federal lands for oil companies to drill and pull up the oil that is sitting right there. They've been enacting this BS climate nonsense. I'm just telling you, these people are just out there in left field. They've been hijacked by this nutty minority in their party, and they basically don't have a backbone to stand up to it. When we have a world where a man can compete with women in sports, something is seriously wrong. I mean, that one woman could have been killed that had to box with that boxer at the Olympics. And again, everybody is afraid to stand up and say, this is not okay. This is not going to continue, because they're afraid to be called a racist or a bigot or whatever. And I'll tell you one other thing that's on my mind. And that is, in this election, there's one really good piece of news. And that is that the Democrats' plan to allow all these illegals in is effectively not going to work, because what it is, it's a power grab. And what they're betting is, the Democrats are betting that these Latinos, whatever, are effectively going to be a future lock on power, because in their mind, they think, oh, these people are going to always vote for the Democrats. And that's just not true. And it's been proven, thank God, in this election, because Donald Trump carried a minimum of 45% of the Latino vote. And in some areas, he carried much higher than that. There's a county on the border in Texas that's primarily a Latino county, and I think the figure was something like 75% of the county voted for him. And I mean, it was just a complete shift. See, what the Biden administration, what the Democrats have failed to understand is that Latino people are just like American people, in the sense that they are family people. They care about their family. They're Christian people. They have deep religious beliefs. They don't want a handout. They don't want the government putting a big tit there for them to suck on so they can live for free from cradle to grave. All they want is opportunity. And let's be honest about it. It may be stereotypical, but it's true. And that is, Latino people are very hardworking people. And all they want is a chance to make a better life for themselves. And as a country, especially as a country with a population problem right now, thank God that they're here. It's one of these blessings in the skies. And of course, this election just proved that the right candidate can definitely win the Latina vote. As a matter of fact, right here in my home state of Florida, President Trump won Miami-Dade County. And that, of course, that's a predominantly Latino county. Very interesting, ain't it? That has not been done since the great Ronald Reagan was in office back in the 1980s. So keep the comments coming in. I will take a minute here in a second. I'll go through these comments and we'll discuss them, because I appreciate everybody chiming in. Let me know your thoughts if you agree or disagree with me on these issues, because it's important that we understand what a what a movement this is with Donald Trump. What an awakening for the people. And I normally don't agree with Bernie Sanders. There's been one or two times I've agreed with him. This is another time. The letter that he released publicly to his own party stated the obvious. He says, how can you expect the working class people of America to support the Democrats when the Democrats have effectively abandoned them? And I meant, amen. I meant that's about as straight as you can be on the subject, as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's take a look at the meat of what I want to get into today. There is and let me minimize myself here so we can see us a little better. There is a channel that goes by the name of the MeidasTouch Network. Have y'all heard of that before? It's called MeidasTouch. It may have a little bit of interference here on the internet. Give it a second just to clear up in case you're having trouble hearing me. I want to go through some comments right now anyway, so let's take a second and do that. Yeah, sometimes around here in Florida with this past hurricane, we pretty well have all our power and everything back. And generally, they always hype up these storms and these hurricanes. But we have had a lot of internet problems, a lot of on and off with the lights. And, you know, it varies from area to area. But I still think they're trying to get the kinks out of the system, so to speak, as far as repairs and stuff. Because there's a lot of people hurt around here from this last hurricane of Milton. But at any rate, here's my buddy Zach. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah, attributed to propaganda. That's exactly what all this is. I think that's the perfect word for the whole thing. And their compromise, U.S. Yes, the U.S. has been uprighted. Anonymous listening. Yeah, Matt Smith, thanks for being here. Trump did win everything, and I believe he's on track to win the House. Can you imagine how fantastic that would be? That at least for the first 24 months, Donald Trump will be able to control the Senate, so they'll be able to put their judges and their nominations forward. And most importantly, anybody in the Supreme Court, the conservative justices that might be looking for an off-ramp to retire or whatever, this will be the perfect opportunity because Donald Trump will be able to appoint whatever type of judge he wants to put on the court. And I think that is fantastic. And then, of course, with the House, with the Republicans controlling the House, you control the House, you control the purse swings, or I should say the purse strings. I would say the only negative thing about that is that it would probably still be a slim majority, but majority is a majority. And hopefully they can find a way to effectively govern together. If I'm being extremely honest with everybody, generally I like a government that is split up between the parties. But in this case, I think a 24-month exception is exactly what's needed. And the good news is President Donald Trump elect has experience. He's obviously been through this before for 4 years. This time around, he's not going to be taking advice from everybody and worried about this and worried about that. He cannot run for election again. He knows exactly what to do. He clearly has a mandate for the people. And let's make sure we all pray for President Trump and his family and our country. And if I could encourage you to do so, I think we ought to really pray for the other side, because I know there's a lot of people hurting right now. They're extremely upset. And I can have a little empathy for that. I'm sure you can too. If I had the chance, I almost want to laugh at the other side, but that would not do anybody any good, and it just makes enemies of people. Well, what I'd rather do is just make the changes that we need to have done for our country. And you're right, Matt, no one is above the law. All right. So appreciate everybody making comments. Again, if you have any questions or whatever, put them in. If you'd like to join live, I put that link at the top. You can call in if you're camera shy. Otherwise, you can just hit that link and you can appear just like you're talking on your phone to your neighbors or whatever. I hope Trump picks a soulless attorney general, someone ruthless. Yeah, me and you both. That's really going to be an interesting dynamic too, because with that lawfare that has been waged against Donald Trump, and I think that's what makes me the most aggravated with the Biden administration, if I can be perfectly honest with everyone here, is the fact that they have turned the United States, this country that I love with every fiber of my body, into effectively a banana republic, a third world country. We no longer have the moral high ground to preach to other people that, hey, you should be conducting your democracy this way. You shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing that. We no longer have that moral high ground because, as the president of Ecuador wisely pointed out this year in front of the United Nations, when you go down that road of taking the money from someone that you don't like, or you try to incarcerate somebody because you don't like them or you don't like their policies, and you go after their children. And you heard Letitia James, that crazy baddie attorney general out there in New York State, effectively make threats against President Donald Trump. She ran on a platform. Again, I don't want to get off on that tangent, but it just aggravates me so bad that that they would allow. I mean, where's the state bar? The State Bar of New York. You know, there are ethical codes. There are what we call canons, judicial canons of ethics and rules. I don't understand why that is tolerated. They have a higher expectation when you are a practicing member of the bar. I don't care if you're an elected attorney general or not. There are rules that you're supposed to govern yourself by and your behavior by. And you have something similar happen with Gavin Newsom, as our president-elect would say. Gavin Newsom out there in California is calling for an assembly meeting because he wants to preempt anything that Donald Trump would be doing in Congress. Just a bunch of nonsense. Absolutely not. But you're right, Matt. You're right. I hope he picks very strong, effective people, as Zach would say, just for house cleaning. 100% tariff in UK till they call for snap election. Yeah, I think he's going to be able to effectively use all the tools in his toolbox to bring about change. I'm hoping he's able to end that crazy war in Ukraine. There's published reports that President Biden is trying to take steps to make sure Ukraine is funded for a long time frame. Don't let that aggravate y'all when you hear it in the news, because the president can only do so much. Remember, it's Congress that controls the purse strings. And when Donald Trump gets into office, he'll be able to decide how that's going to end. Because make no mistake about it, no country like Russia is going to lose. They're not going to be given any land back. What they need to do is find a way to negotiate a settlement on that. And I will make a video on that at some point in the near future, and we can drill down on that, and I can share my views with each and every one of you on that. And then, Matt, no, not $1. We got to put a stop to that. That's too much of our blood and treasure that we're putting at risk, and we're risking World War III. I don't think that is anything that I'm exaggerating about. The world is on fire. Any of this stuff can get out of control, have a misjudgment, something not go the way it should go. And there's just that spark, and boom, and then you have a world war. And that is something obviously we don't want to have to deal with. And again, Zach, they thought they were invincible. I think that's a fair. It says, American Nana, thank you for joining us today, sweetheart. Always a pleasure. Thank you for being here today. I'm listening. And so I'm not watching the stream. That's okay. You can listen. I hope my voice is nice and soothing out there. Thank you for joining us. All right. And then 10 years Biden's promise. 10-year Biden promised Ukraine. Yeah, he's had so many. He's been on every side of everything, and he's been in Washington, D.C. for 50 years now. I'm glad to see him retiring, and he's going to be drifting off into the sunset. Thank God that Kamala Harris did not get in. Can you imagine her getting into office? She's clearly a socialist, probably a communist. If anybody's a fascist, I mean, they would fit that bill. You got somebody wanting to stop fracking, not allow for us to drill for natural resources in our own community. We can't build nuclear plants. We can't build new electric plants. They want to stranglehold our economy with this Green New scam. I mean, what the hell is going on? Why are these people not thinking for themselves? I just don't understand all this. By the way, we got quite a few on X, and I appreciate my visitors on YouTube. Thank you all so much for being with me today. All right. Let me get into the meat of what I want to talk about. There's this channel on YouTube. I'm sure y'all might have heard of them before. They are called, and I hope you guys are hearing me clearly. I know the internet is having slight problems, but it says excellent. So I guess y'all can hear me. If there's any issues, let me know on that. Thank you, Yay God, for being here. I think Biden and others were getting funneled back to. Yeah, I think that's true too. I think there's a lot of questions there. It's always interesting when you see these politicians that have been working in Washington for all these years, and yet somehow they're multimillionaires, like Nancy Pelosi. She's worth $200-300 million or something along them lines, according to reports that I've read. Obviously, something's wrong, something's broken. I don't know what, but again, that's another, yay, God, you're exactly right. That's another situation. So this platform here called MeidasTouch, and I encourage you to go over to their channel and check it out sometime. It's okay to hear how the other side is incorrectly thinking and how they've really lost their way and how they're all indoctrinated. I think it's good to listen. And listen, they do have a classy setup and they have a ton of followers. Looks like they have 3.3 million followers. So this place here is a professional place, and they put together professional videos, but they're just wrong. I mean, they're just clearly wrong. I don't think there's any other way to say it. So I just want to briefly go through this. So let's take a look at what I got right here. All right, so this first video is going to show you right before election. These people start slamming Donald Trump. This one's called the 2024 presidential elections. You know, just before elections were actually going to be held. Here's some of the nonsense that they're talking about with Donald Trump.
Election day is here, and we are already seeing incredible firsthand reports from voters on the ground. People are rising up to reject Donald Trump, and they are saying enough is enough. Something special is happening across the United States of America, folks. So today, on this historic day, I wanted to share with you some of my favorite viral TikTok videos. My name is Brett Meiselas, here with the MeidasTouch Network. Make sure.
Yeah, Brett, you're exactly right. Something special is definitely happening in America today, aka election day, but it's not exactly what you think it is. So let's continue on. Remember, they're extremely excited by this time frame. They're they're just very proud of themselves and they're very happy. This video here, again, we're talking about the MeidasTouch program. This says Trump blows up on Fox News as election nightmare continues. So they're predicting a terrible event for Donald Trump. Things ain't going to work out his way. Well, let's see exactly how this goes.
How's this for a closing message? Oprah should be ashamed of herself, and Fox News, well, they're not as pro-Trump as they should be.
And I think, frankly, she should be ashamed of herself. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox. Because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement. And I think it's a disgrace what Fox does, because everyone thinks Fox is so pro.
Incidentally, the funny thing about Oprah Winfrey, remember it was been a while now, but we had that screenshot of a letter that Oprah wrote to President Trump a long time ago. And basically she was saying, if you ever decide to run for president, we should run as a team because we would be an unbeatable combination. So it's just kind of funny to see the hypocrisy of these people.
They're not pro-Trump at all. They've put Oprah on all morning long. That's all I see is Oprah. And, I do Oprah very well. She's been at Mar-a-Lago many times. Roger King had his funeral. That's the head of King World, which was Oprah's mentor. And Oprah chose the location. She said, Mar-a-Lago is the most beautiful place. Would it be possible to have Roger's funeral at Mar-a-Lago in the ballroom? We did it. The only time I've ever had a funeral there. And I think Oprah should be
knocked on doors and visited phone bank.
I'm looking.
This is kind of a cute clip of Kamala Harris as he's talking about her right here. She's at some phone bank. We're gonna listen to this for a few minutes more.
At you and you're looking at me? Oh, because there's a live camera somewhere.
Oh God. And her laugh. Who's gonna miss her laugh?
Okay, I'm waving it.
She is always so fake, so disingenuous. Everything is staged, and that's fine. I get it. Have staged things, but don't act like they're real. It's a real emotional connection. That's the second or third time I've seen a video of her where she's like, oh, we're on camera. Amazing. I didn't know that.
Is this Teresa? Yes, is this Teresa? Okay. Hi.
Trump held an impromptu presser in Florida alongside whoever the hell this is. Because if you think that's Melania, I've got a $60 God Bless America Bible I can sell you.
Okay, that's what I want. Did you hear that right there? He's like, that's not even Melania Trump beside him. Because if you believe that, I got a God Bless America Bible. Trump has been selling Bibles, if you don't know that, which is a good thing for a businessman. A businessman should sell what they can sell. And I can think of a lot worse that you could sell than a Bible, right? But make sure you hear this. He's like, that's not Melania.
Held an impromptu presser in Florida alongside whoever the hell this is. Because if you think that's Melania, I've got a $60 God Bless America Bible I can sell you.
Oh, some people are so jealous, my friends, huh? That's amazing. So they're very full of themselves right now. They're very happy. And one final video before we get into the really good stuff. This is titled Ivanka gives ultimate insult to Donald on election day. And after you see this little clip, I'm going to show you Melania Trump with Donald Trump. And remember, at the beginning of this campaign, because of lawfare, you had that Letitia James. She sued each one of the children, Donald Trump's 2 sons, or I should say his 2 adult sons, and Ivanka Trump. They went after her, and she's got 2 or 3 small kids of her own. And this time around, she's like, listen, I love my dad. I'm always a supporter of my dad. I'm always there if my dad needs me, but I'm going to step away from American politics. It's a nasty game, and she doesn't want anything to do with it. And I frankly don't blame her. But the point is, this guy here, just listen to the way he spins this nonsense. And this guy, in my opinion, he's very, let's just say he has a high opinion of himself. The word hubris comes to my mind. This guy has a serious case of Trump derangement syndrome, and he has, make sure my earpiece fits in, okay, and he has a serious case of Trump derangement syndrome, and his hubris is off the chain. So let's listen to this gentleman right here.
So it's never a good sign if your own daughter doesn't endorse you or even tell the world to go out and vote. Where's Ivanka? Where's Ivanka? We've been asking that question for quite some time, but now on election day, she's not even posting anything about voting, but she is making posts about herself. Let's take a look at what she's posting. Well, on Instagram, she writes, "This past week, I turned 43," with this photograph of her. She also made some posts of herself lifting weights. I checked out her Instagram story. Maybe there would be something at least on the story.
Yeah, he just goes on and on trolling her. But of course, he doesn't tell the truth once again, because Ivanka was right beside her dad. He's like, where's she at? She's nowhere to be seen, blah, blah, blah. And again, it's another one of these fantastic lies by the press. Here's Donald Trump at his celebration speech.
Wow.
And you can definitely see his family, his daughters.
And in addition
there
to
they are
having
right
won
there.
the battleground
You
states,
see her right here on the right. It's on my right-hand side as I'm looking at the screen. I got the cursor moving. That's Ivanka. And then, of course, next to her is her husband, Jared. So clearly, this guy doesn't know
North Carolina, I love these places.
what he is talking about. But again, I digress. So now the panic sets in, right? You have these, he's very happy, very pleased with himself. And then now the panic starts to set in. And this particular clip is corporate media, massive fail for Trump and what we do, whatever that means. That was his thing. But we're going to listen to him cry for just a brief second on Donald Trump really mopping it up and really creaming everything right here. So see, Zach, you said I tried listening to him twice, but yeah, I told you I'm having just a few internet problems. I apologize for any type of connective issues, but I'll try to paraphrase it. Again, my apologies, but listen to this guy. This is kind of funny.
So we posted on our social media the following and got a resounding response that's so critical that I share with you. We posted, "We have no choice but to keep fighting for our values. We will never give up on our democracy. We will relentlessly broadcast the truth and shine a light on the stories that the corporate media too often ignores." And we got responses like this: "The biggest reason why the media failed America. If we could have MeidasTouch on cable broadcasting in every living room, this election would have been different." And then Sasha writes, "Cancel your subscriptions to every corporate media platform. There are so many wonderful alternatives. Punish these people for their sane."
Isn't that interesting that they are saying hammer the media or corporate media, whatever there's, you have 95, 96% of everything in the corporate media right now only benefits one way. And that, of course, is for the liberal woke Democrats, the woke whatever you want to call them, the woke group of people. It's a never fail, but it's so funny to hear them with these I don't know. They're just PO'd and they're going to sit there and cry. I almost had a tear fill up in my eye, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I got one last one I'm going to show you, and we'll finish up with the comments here. But this is one of his partners or whatever that's on this particular channel, and it's just kind of funny to hear his cry.
We're on the other side of Tuesday in the election, and we are now, whether we like it or not, the party, the channel, the community, the network of resistance, not of exile. And I'm going to break down for you the way forward, including the use of the court system to check unbridled power by Donald Trump, now that he and MAGA and right-wing Americans have swept in a Republican-controlled House, Senate, and presidency.
Oh, that's just terrible. Well, folks, they need to be told the obvious. That's what you get when you turn your back on America. The Democrats, these woke Democrats, that's what they got when they adopted basically everything that AOC, Bernie Sanders, what's that crazy woman that's always going against the Jewish, the Zionists, whatever she calls them. It's just, we're tired of hearing of defund the police. We're tired of hearing that nonsense of, from the river to the sea. Basically, they want to exterminate the Jews and get rid of the state of Israel. It's just stuff that we are tired of as a country, and they thought they could keep getting away with it. And obviously, with the wisdom that our founding fathers had, they put together this great document called the Constitution. And friends, it has worked once again. The American people, with this populist movement through Donald Trump, it's just wonderful. It's just absolutely fantastic. And make no mistake about it, Donald Trump has the special anointing of God on him. There's no other way to say it. This is only the second time it's happened in American history where a president has been president for 4 years, did not have a consecutive term, and then he was brought back in during another election, like Donald Trump has just won. I should refer to him as Donald Trump, president-elect. Fantastic. This man has survived 2, that we know of, assassination attempts. Can you imagine what the odds are of having a bullet that's the size of whatever that shotgun shell was go by your head in such a way where it does not damage your skull, it does not damage your brain, it just grazes your skull and hits your, not graze your skull, it goes beside your ear to where it injures your ear. It causes you to bleed a lot because the head is very vascular, and yet there's no lasting damage. And of course, it did not kill President Donald Trump. Thank God. It's just one thing after another that shows that this man is on a special mission. He has a special purpose, and I encourage each and every one of us to pray for him, his family. Obviously, he's a very wealthy man. It's not like we need to pray for milk or anything for him, but we need to pray for him and all of our leaders to have wisdom and to govern accordingly. I mean, let's face it, the whole world depends on the United States. So let me go through the comments here, see if there's anything else. Zach, they have hyper-partisan left bias. Yeah, and it hardly shows, you're right. I appreciate you commenting as things developed here. So I hope I'm coming through nice and clear right now. All right, friends, I do appreciate everybody joining me today. We had a nice crowd today. It's always a pleasure. I never take it for granted. Thanks to everybody on the X platform. If you haven't done so, hey, it helps the channel. You might as well hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to subscribe if you're on X at Reach JRdukes or on YouTube at JRdukes. Please subscribe. It helps the channel, puts a smile on my face. I'd like to see the channel grow. I think we're getting close to 7,000 subscribers. We're closing in on that, and that's all because of each and every one of you. And again, I definitely appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thanks, everybody, so much. And as I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, I am JRdukes.